In today's topic, Getting It Together, we cover some basic items that you'll want to gather in order to be best prepared should a problem spring up suddenly with an aging parent. Hi, and welcome to My Aging Parent by Seniority. My Aging Parent offers practical advice and sensible solutions for those tackling common aging-related issues. My name is Cindy Moore, and I will be your host for today's episode. Let's start here. Accidents happen. And while accidents can happen to any one of us, regardless of age, when accidents happen to an aging parent, it can often require a very quick response. For example, very common age-related medications help to thin blood in order to prevent strokes. Where a cut or a slip and fall may be only slightly worrisome to you and I, it may be a life or death situation for an older person. So, in order to best prepare for an emergency, it is really important that those within the care circle, like adult children and family members, actually have some key items within their possession so that when accidents do occur, the patient, the doctor, and the family members all have what is needed to provide the best care. So, what are those items? There are 5 key items that should be readily available in case of an emergency. Those 5 items are 1. Medication and allergy list, 2. Medical provider information, 3. Advance directive for healthcare, 4. A medical durable power of attorney, and 5. A notarized will. Number 1 on our list, medications and allergies list. In our first episode, Preparing to Care, we covered steps that you can take to help yourself become better prepared before your role begins to transform into caregiving. So if you haven't seen that episode, a link to that is right up here. Step 3 in that episode was to gather a list of medications, what they are and what they are for, medication schedules and medication allergies. It also wouldn't hurt to include on that list any other type of allergy because sometimes a food or topical allergy may affect what is prescribed. You are going to want to type these out and keep a record of any changes. A history of medications can be important because maybe one time your mom was prescribed something that had a bad side effect for her, so her doctor took her off of it. You wouldn't want another doctor working in an emergency situation to prescribe that same medication if a medication change were needed. I will say as a side note that keeping up with the history of medications can be a bit challenging. Make it easy on yourself by having a regular phone call with your parent or parents to get this updated regularly. Then, type it up or write it neatly, print it out, and always keep a copy on you, like in your purse or wallet. Also, send copies to key loved ones. Item number 2, medical provider information. We also covered in episode 1 gathering a list of all of your parents' medical providers. If an accident happens, the attending physician is probably going to need to connect with one or more of your parents' medical providers, just depending on the type of issue that has occurred. And although most physicians these days are incorporating patient health portals so that health and health history information can be more easily obtained, medical providers often use different systems, which means that one doctor may not have access to another doctor's patient portal. In an emergency, it is critical that the attending physician can quickly access your parents' medical history, so having physicians' names and contact numbers will help get better care faster. And with this list, you will also want to type it up or write it neatly, print it out, and always keep a copy on you, in your purse or your wallet. Also, send copies to key loved ones. Item 3 on our list is an advance directive, also known as a living will. If something unthinkable happens and an accident is so bad that life support measures must be taken, patients have a right to decline life support if life support won't really save them. If a person does not want to be kept artificially alive for an extended period of time, after all other measures have been exhausted, then they have the right to decline it. But how does a patient decline life support if they are unconscious or there are no cognitive capabilities left? That's where an advance directive comes in. Anyone, regardless of age, can have an advance directive written up that will cover what they do or do not want to happen to them if things are so dire that life support measures are needed. They do this when they are healthy and can have the presence of mind to be able to make a decision of that magnitude. If your aging parent does not have this, then you will want to go ahead and broach the subject with them. They may not be crazy about having a conversation about life support. Really, no one does. But it is far better to have that conversation than to be forced into a treatment that they may not want and that may tap out all of the financial reserves of a surviving spouse. Item number 4 on our list is a medical durable power of attorney. A medical durable power of attorney is a legal document that gives a specified person the authority to act in the patient's interest should that patient become too incapacitated to communicate their wishes. What? Okay, let's have an example. Dad is chasing squirrels off the roof, and after bailing off of his ladder, he smacks his big old head on the ground and knocks himself out cold. The attending doctor may want to take some tests and prescribe treatments, maybe even need to do surgery, but Dad needs to give him permission to do this. But Dad can't, because he's still busy staring at the inside of his eyeballs. So if Dad gave you the durable medical power of attorney, you could then grant the permission for any required tests or treatments. But keep in mind that the advance directive takes precedence. If your parent is giving you medical durable power of attorney, but they also have an advance directive that states that they do not wish to be resuscitated or kept on life support, then as the medical durable power of attorney, you could not overwrite that directive. In other words, you have to carry out their wishes if they have been communicated on the advance directive. Another thing, the medical durable power of attorney is not a full power of attorney. It is strictly limited to making medical decisions. Also, the durable medical power of attorney can exclude medical procedures or conditions that they do not give you the authority to make. For example, they could have a sterilization exclusion, meaning that you could not have your mom's tube tied if she was incapacitated. Just saying. A last note on the durable medical power of attorney. In addition to having one primary designee, it is a good idea to have at least one, maybe two backups designees, just in case something happens to you that would preclude you from fulfilling your duties. And finally, number 5, a notarized will. Dealing with the loss of a loved one, especially when it isn't expected, can be extremely traumatic. Dealing with the pain of loss, the funeral arrangements, and all of the administrative duties like final bills and closing accounts can be overwhelming. This is especially true if that loved one was an aging parent that was living alone. There may be a home to sell, family heirlooms to pass down, and investments to distribute. There also may be bills to pay and mounds of paperwork to fill out for insurance, Social Security, or Medicare. Imagine how difficult this task would be if the family members had no idea how the parent wanted things to be handled. Add into that the raw emotions that can bubble up to the surface when things like money and sentiment get thrown into the mix. When a person dies without a will, it is referred to as being intestate. If a person dies intestate and has no surviving spouse, it is then up to the courts to figure everything out. The first cost going, of course, to the probate attorneys. Dealing with the death of a parent is hard. Dealing with the death of a parent that dies intestate is a recipe for disaster. Do yourself a favor and make sure that your parent has a will. But remember, this also has to be a legal document. It is a good idea to run the will past a family attorney to ensure that it has legal teeth. You will also want to make sure that you have the will notarized. And here is a huge tip. Have at the very least, 3 originals of the notarized will. A notary will use a big metal stamp to stamp the seal onto the will, and you can run your fingers over the seal and see and feel its deep impressions. An original will has the raised notarized seal on it so that you can feel it. If you make a copy of the original, like using a copy machine, that copy will do you no good. In almost all cases, like collecting distributions or life insurance, you will be asked for an original, non-copied version with a raised seal. So you will want to have at least 3. While gathering these 5 items takes time and maybe even some uncomfortable conversations, it is important that you begin to gather them as soon as possible. Set a deadline for yourself so that you remember to get them all done. Once done, you will be better prepared for anything that could come up, making your path and your parents' path an easier and more enjoyable one. Well, that does it for this episode of My Aging Parent by Seniority. Remember, everyone's situation is unique, and the things that we have discussed may or may not work out for your current circumstance. We encourage you to seek out guidance from professional resources and from those around you that have been in your shoes. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking on the big red subscribe button. That will help us to deliver our message to more people. Enjoy the journey, my friend.